And we're live. Oh, that's good. Welcome, everybody, to my channel. My name is Margaret Bernard, and I'm a historical fiction and fantasy author, as well as a booktuber. So you're on Booktube. And I was having a devil of a time trying to figure out what I should do for today's video slot. And then, luckily, Heathereads tagged me in an original book tag that really caught my fancy. So I'm going to pop this in the chat while I'm welcoming everybody. She started a tag just yesterday, so I'm hopping on this trend early, and it's about your wildest dreams book tag. So let me put Heathereads is the creator, and the link to her original book tag yesterday in the chat. And this solves my problem because this really appealed to my imagination and fantasy. Some of these I've definitely considered before, and some of them needed to be updated. So, yeah. So coming to you to talk about my wildest dreams to do with books. And Heather had a background change with each of her questions, which I thought was neat. So I did a couple of overlays for my answers, and I had to dive into Pinterest to grab pictures that I remembered as inspiration for these. So hopefully they're entertaining for you as well. So there's 5 prompts. It's pretty easy, and at the end I will be tagging 10 people. I'll put their names and link their channels down on the bottom. These are all lovely people to talk books with, so you can subscribe and expand your bookish partners to talk with on YouTube. But Heather's here. All right, so the first prompt is your fantasy time and place to read a book. And let me pop up reading time and place overlay, and then move this out of the way. So hopefully you can still hear me. That's why I did overlay, so that I could stay on the screen. And here are some of my ideas, right? So I have a friend who just told me that he loves waking up in the morning and just reading a book because it feels so deliciously indulgent, I think is the best word. And I get that. But for me, I think the greatest feeling while I'm reading is that I've earned it and I don't have to feel guilty about it. And so for me, the best time and place would be in the afternoon, because the morning is my best time to work and focus. And so that's like research or organization or business stuff or correspondence. And so I'm go, go, go in the morning. I'm going on my walk. I'm getting my healthy lunch in. And then between lunch and dinner, there's like 3 to 5 p.m. where I'm going to be reclining by my imaginary fireplace, and my cat, Bean, he just chimed in, is curling up on my lap, and we're enjoying the rain sounds outside because it's Portland, and the fire crackles inside because it's fantasy, and I'm reading my lovely book. So those are my inspo pictures that I took off of Canva. And that's sort of the reasoning behind my fantasy time and place. I don't know if that makes sense, but if you've got questions about any of these or want to do the tag yourself, of course, you can use the link in the chat to go watch Heather's and do it yourself on your channel or on a blog or whatever format you want to do. But I'd love for you to join in because I think this is a great tag. The second prompt is your fantasy personal library or your personal library if you have attained your fantasy. So no to that latter question, but I definitely had Pinterest inspiration for these. And as you can see, I've got a nice, I think, background. I've got this secretary, which is from my mom's side of the family, which I definitely laid claim to. No one else is as bookish as I am and loves old furniture as I do. So this is probably like 100 years old and, you know, needs a little TLC, but I love that the fact that I have a secretary because it's very old-timey. And then I've just got like IKEA furniture to try to wrangle some of the research books that I have for my writing. So, and I just went over my first ever bookshelf tour in my last video last Wednesday, which for tech reasons wasn't a great delivery, but I went through a lot of historical fiction that I have not read on my shelf, and it's a good start. Like I'm pretty happy with how my actual personal library is at the moment. But if you're gonna ask about fantasy library, okay, well, I've got a postcard that I've had since I was like 15 that is a photograph of Abbotsford's library, so Sir Walter Scott's library. And basically, it's like medium warmth wood paneling, double level. There's a ladder, all the things, right? And I can put up the second like overlay of the that one of the inspiration pictures. So of course we've got the cheesy one on the right, which is, yes, library ladder, yes, architectural details for the shelves that are gorgeous, and, you know, a man and a cat. So let's throw those in as well while we're at it. But then we've got things like creative bookshelf design. So if we move left, we've got an arch over the door, which I think is very clever, which may come into play later with my apartment if I ever get moving on like designing custom built-ins. That would be cool. Then in the middle, we've got the wriggling, I would say, winding staircase with like a stamped tin ceiling. You could go all out with some of these things, and obviously these wood colors don't match, but I would have to decide, so that would be hard. I love the Art Nouveau look. I love, like, if you look down next, it's the Hector Guimard inspired bookcase. So sort of like a secretary, but not an actual place to work, just like those beautiful lines from the Paris metro stations designed by Guimard. And like that would definitely fit in with my Gothic. I think what I'm trying to say here is that I would love to mix eras. So, and then you look up and like that dark wood with all the arches is very sort of like, I don't know, it's probably 19th century imitation. So I am not bothered by mixing eras. You know, the Victorians did it. Mix, match. I mean, as long as the aesthetics of the colors go, like, I'm okay with that. And so my fantasy personal library would have lots of wood, lots of paneling, lots of shelves, a book ladder, perhaps a twirly staircase like I found at Daunt Books, cozy little nooks and window seats with lots of natural light, which Heather also pointed out, which is important, and different eras of furnishings, as well as knickknacks. And of course, it would magically be dusted, so I wouldn't have to worry about it gathering dust and becoming a health hazard or a fire hazard because it's a fantasy. So yeah, so that one I've definitely thought about, probably talked a few pieces about on previous tags, but yeah, that has definitely occupied my thinking in terms of how to design my space and furnish it and everything. Okay, so Bean made the appearance when I talked about him and the cat with that picture, and apparently that was definitely audible, so I'm glad he got to chime in at exactly the right moment. Hey, Emma. And I hope the sound is okay. I'm using these with the StreamYard audio, so I hope that's okay. I'm also going to ask an audio question later if anyone has tips for that, so let's see. Prompt number 3, before I ask that question, is going to be, imagine you have decided to build a bookshop. Gosh, I've never contemplated that before. What would you call it? Would it sell new or secondhand books? Would it sell anything else? What features would you want in that shop? So I have thought about this before, and I don't have a name. The name would definitely depend on where, and since that is up in the air, I'm reserving the name for a future date. But the other questions, I definitely have things to mention because I actually several years ago thought about um, what it would be like if I took my childhood home and turned it into a part-time bookshop and bed and breakfast and local neighborhood community hub. And like I have all these ideas that were just playing in my head. So some of those I will share with you. Again, fantasy. So definitely new and used books. I've worked in used bookstores and I've definitely visited new and used. There is a way to do that inventory wise, so not a problem. I love the idea of used bookstores. Uh, I loved Heather's idea of the Ouroboros as the snake eating its own tail being sort of the spirit of the used bookstore because you're keeping things in circulation so that the initial effort of creating those things is not wasted and people can still enjoy them for a long time, which, yes, that's definitely part of my ethos. But I also like supporting new efforts and new publications that are trying to add to the conversation and diversify the publishing landscape. And so I would want to have accounts set up with certain small press publishers that I love, like Sourcebooks, like Workman Publishing, like Microcosm, all these great people doing great things on the scene. I would love to cultivate relationships with them. So new and used. Would it sell anything else? So yes. So I learned, and I've remembered, which is good, that the stuff you find like taking up half or a third, maybe a third of your Barnes & Noble these days that are not books are called sidelines. So some sidelines I would want to include in my small space would be bookends because I love looking at bookends. They can be really expensive, so I would have to limit my choices to like a few inside joke bookends. And oh my gosh, did I queue this up? I did not. I downloaded it, but I didn't make it into the overlay. So let me just share this with you because if you're a certain type of nerd, you will appreciate this. Wait, that's not how I find downloads anymore. I'm annoyed that it doesn't live at the bottom of my like bar, my over operating system bar at the bottom. Like I can't just click on downloads. I have to like open up a new tab. It's weird. But here we go. Okay. So present, share, window. I found these on my Pinterest and yes. The Argonath bookends. Like there's some really fun ones. So like bookends would definitely be a sideline I was interested in. Bookmarks. I love a good bookmark, whether it's funny, whether it has like silk tassels, whether it's referencing inside joke nerdery. I love it all. I would do book themed tea and candles. So I think Barnes & Noble goes too far in this, but like I would definitely choose maybe one or two companies that had book themed tea mixes, maybe one or two companies that had book themed candles. Not necessarily the smells of places in books, but like the authors. My favorite candles, which I've referenced before, are the library series by, and I'm gonna forget the name of the company, but their Charles Dickens candle is like smells like Christmas and shoo-in. Lovely, lovely smell. So things like that. I would also have nooks in this bookshop for people to pause and read and browse. And in those nooks, there would definitely be a wingback or two because those are the best types of stuffed chairs. And again, my era style coming through. Other sidelines, tea, coffee, chocolate, like good hot chocolate, not like we whipped it up from a Nestle packet. The other things I'd considered are like the bar where you serve these drinks also has recharging. So if you're like reading, you'd be able to recharge your e-reader. There's a place for swaps, like a big old table for like meetings of book clubs, as well as swapping books. This is the community hub part. There's community boards to tack up things for like tool shares and transport shares and house sits and pet sits. There's an in-house book mender because we don't want our books to fall apart. Like we want to retain that knowledge. So there's lots of things I thought about that would be really great for a book community. And you know, I don't think it would be able to exist all in this childhood home idea, but there are small rooms that I envisioned going for different genres and areas for nooks, and like where I would put the till and the bar are still up in the air, but it would work. It would work. So the only thing I didn't have thought out was like the name. But yeah, that's very exciting. Emma said hi, like button boop, thank you, and thank you for letting me know the sound is good. Anita is here. Hello, hello. Wow. I don't know what the wow is for because I waited too long to check in with the chat, so I apologize. But then Anita said, I think I have those bookends. So maybe it was about the Argonath bookends. Lord of the Ring nerd. Yes, we're here for it. Tea is a brilliant sideline. Yes, I love it. I'm going to take another sip based on that. I also really like the ones that are like broken open geodes. So they're highly polished, mostly rocks, like amethyst or something. And then the inside, you get the sparkly, like spiky inside of the geode, which is really pretty. Laura's here. Hi, Laura. Good morning. Good morning. We're doing an original tag just created yesterday by Heathereads. So it's wildest dreams in book-related questions. And I'm about halfway through, so I wanted to ask my question. Besides downloads, that's a Mac thing. There's a YouTube thing, which is that now that I'm past 1,000 subscribers, there's like no music. It says enroll in the creator music thing, and you have to agree to a new set of terms. Did that change for everyone, or was it like 1,000 subscriber thing? Because I don't want to agree. I just want to go back to their old library and use what they have. I don't want to do any like sharing agreements. So if you know anything about this and you want better, more music choices on my live streams, let me know what the lowdown is, because I'm scared to press accept because I just want to go on with what I was doing and just like search acceptable music, but they're not allowing me to do that. So let me know what it looks like on your dashboard if I'm alone in this. Okay, prompt number 4. One person, not a Booktube creator, with whom you can have a good conversation about books. If you don't know a person like this, who do you know that you wish would become a reader so that you could talk books with them? Okay, so this was the hardest question for me, and I've actually got 2 answers. So I answered both sides of the question. One is I have a Patreon book club, and one of the people in there is a Booktube creator, so I can't mention their channel, but one is not. So my person that is an excellent person to talk books with is someone who lives here in Portland, is in the book club, and really gives me good recommendations. Of course, I have her latest recommendation that I haven't read yet, which is supposed to be really good, The Great Offshore Grounds by Vanessa Veselka, local Pacific Northwest writer. But yeah, we're like the best in-depth conversations. It's not a Booktube creator, I'd probably say that person. And then the other part of the question is someone you know that you wish would become a reader. I'm going to sort of sidestep this. It's not someone I know yet, but I wish and I believe that a future partner will like be a really good person to discuss books with, and that I will eventually know this person, and it will be great to have someone to talk books with who wants to spend time with me and like maybe have different tastes, but like engage about the books that I am reading, as well as offer lessons about what they're reading. That would be really, really cool. All right, and final prompt, number 5. If you won $1 million or pounds, I'll take it in pounds, thank you, or yen or euros, and you could only spend it on books or book-related items. Oh dear, I don't know how I will do that. How would you spend it? Okay, so you saw in my fantasy personal library, there's a lot that I could spend it on that's woodworking related. So definitely like custom shelves. Whoops, an arch. I was thinking since I have like a little hallway here, part of it would be like an arch of books so that it would be over and out of the way. So that's definitely like playing in my mind of Pinterest boards. Bookbinding classes, so maybe I'm the in-house book mender, like more skills. I used to have access to an Espresso book machine, so if I could just get one of those and have it in the apartment, I'd be able to offer that as a service. That would be pretty cool. If you don't know what an Espresso book machine is, it's basically like your all-in-one place book printer. So like a very fancy Xerox, but it also binds books. So this is something that Powell's Books used to have, and they were available to print basically like sample copies. You could do a whole print run if you wanted, but it was more of a, I wouldn't say vanity printer, but like if you wanted to see something that you had in print, or maybe it was like organizing for a book club, or you wanted something small like a zine or whatever, you could go and submit your files, submit your cover image, and they would like print it out and you would see it, and in a couple hours you would have, I don't know, like your 10 copies or whatever. So that would be amazing to have. I don't know how much it costs. They took it out a few years after because I don't think it was cost effective, but if we have $1 million to spend on book related things, that does not concern me. And obviously I would go with designing the perfect bookshop if I had this, and it would have a book swap message board and someone to take care of like the technical details of that, because that is not my preference. And somehow it would also generate income for postage for people who wanted to send books to each other. I've done a few times asking if people wanted a book, and I've sent them books and we swapped. And if people had limitations on that because the postage was too much, then like this little message board would somehow, I don't know, sell ads or whatever, and then give people money for postage. That's the fantasy part. So yeah, so a lot of these things were stuff I've like dreamt up before, and I loved the chance to reflect on them and zhuzh them up a little bit and give a little bit of visual inspiration for people if you're also dreaming of these things. Laura says, I haven't heard of the music thing. So if it hasn't changed for you, then maybe it's like only when you're monetized, because I was like, what is this? I can't find music anymore. Okay, that's helpful. Hi, RC. Welcome. And you like reading. That's great. That comment is important. Laura says, I would want a library where you can watch and hear the rain 24/7. I have some of that saved on my work music playlist. So that's a good soundtrack to listen to when you're reading. And Laura also says, a hand-bound book bindery for fan fiction for my personal use, as well as what I've written for sale. I mean, Espresso book machine, right? Yeah, that would be pretty neat. And Richard Holiday's in to say, woo! Welcome, Richard. So that is the tag. It is only 5 prompts, so feel free to do it. I just had one announcement piece, which is that my next video will be Wednesday wrap up, and I'm going to be doing a few books, hopefully a couple for People April. So if you're participating in that readathon, you could come and join. And then Thursday, I'll be participating in a dramatic reading of some Jeeves and Worcester material over on Christy and David's channel called Fun Classic Reads. So you can see it's going to be on Instagram if you're on Instagram, but also Christy and David and JD Estrada and we are the 2 guests, will be performing in that and hopefully having a hoot and holler of a time. So if you're fans of P.G. Wodehouse and Jeeves and Worcester, that is the link in the chat that you can use to enable notifications for that coming on, and it should be really fun. I'm going to do my darndest to have 2 different accents for the 2 characters I'm playing, but I watched the clip that they sent, and they seem pretty similar. So I don't know how successful this will be, but we're going to have fun trying. So if you like accents and hilarity and a little golden age comedy, then tune in Thursday to Fun Classic Reads at that link. We've got Nicole saying hi everyone. And Heather says, I did not know about espresso binding. Wonder if I can get that in the UK. I think it was more of a like 2013 to 2015 sort of initiative, and like if they're their own company, I think they went bust, because if Powell's doesn't have them, I think the nearest one is probably like New York City now. So like they're not very common. But I just thought it was such a good idea that I want to bring it back. Richard says new headphones. Sort of. I got them for Christmas, and I'm just trying them out because we have to work on our karaoke game. Who am I tagging? Richard is asking. So here we go. Of course, you're not limited to who I've written down beforehand. Heather wanted lots of people to do it, so she tagged like 20 people, and I'm going to tag 10. So these are people who have tagged me in the past, or who have written recent comments and have been great at engaging and like being thoughtful with bookish talk. So Jim's Books, Reading and Stuff, Katja Weinert, Deborah Carr, who is a fellow author, writer in Rwanda, that's Marion. We just had a chat about one of her research areas, which was grand. Rachel at RK Stumbling Bear, Camilla at Hasty Books, and these are the people I met up with on my February trip. Heather Gregg, who lives in Edinburgh, and Sandra Pull Down the Moon, who lives in Glasgow. So those are the folks I met up with in my little Scotland trip. Then also Leslie at Books, Gers and Purrs, who is doing so many videos right now planned for the year. I keep seeing them pop up for like 8 months from now, and I'm going, go girl, yes, ambition. And then Lindsay Reads, at the channel Lindsay Reads, and she's one of the recent commenters who I've noticed and like has lovely kind things to say. So I thought she would be a good one to do this tag as well. Even if you don't have secret bookshop owning dreams for the future, like we'd love to hear your personal library, your time of day. These are great pumps. So looking forward to hearing your take. Richard says accents and hilarity. Hopefully that's what we're going for. Yes, 10 people. And Richard says, I will send this to some bookie people. Excellent. Excellent. So that is what is coming up for me. That is who is tagged and has to bear the burden of hopefully doing this tag soonish. There were lots of people, so hopefully it'll be sweeping your subscriptions page. And other than that, thank you for watching. Share this with your peeps on whatever platforms you're on, and diversify that reading list. I hope you're having a wonderful Sunday. I hope you're enjoying your current read. I am slogging through a People April autobiography by Sir Archibald Allison, who is very full of himself. But you might be able to hear me talk about that on Wednesday for my wrap-up. Other than that, thanks everybody for watching, and have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Yeah, of course. My pleasure. Thank you, Heather. All right. Bye, everybody.